Welcome back, everybody. It's Rich Valdés live with you till 1 a.m. Eastern Time. And what I think needs to happen here is we need to get rid of more school board people. And I say that with all due respect as a school board person myself. And I can tell you, you got to do the right thing. And when you're not doing the right thing, you need to be removed. Because there's too many kids in this country that are being taught to hate America. There are too many kids in this country that are being led astray. And nobody knows that better than Michele Exner, Senior Advisor at Parents Defending Education. Michele, welcome.
Thanks so much, Rich. I appreciate that nice welcome.
My pleasure. And it's, when I was a kid, one of the rappers I grew up with was KRS-One, and he had lyrics that said, "Could there ever be justice on stolen land?" And this was part of his grievance. And I still like KRS-One. I've learned better with respect to history, and I know that I disagree with that part of it. But there were other things that, I did agree with. And overall, whether I agree or disagree with music or even films, I like action movies and I don't go out killing people every day. A lot of this stuff is entertainment. But when it comes to education, this isn't entertainment. This is what kids are learning. And you have an op-ed that you recently penned called Land and Labor Acknowledgments Teach Students to Hate America. And I want you to walk us through it because I feel like that is a big part of the problem we're facing as Americans.
Yeah, absolutely. So to give your listeners a little bit of background here, so at Parents Defending Education, we started seeing a trend of school boards, school districts starting to implement what's referred to as land acknowledgments and labor acknowledgments in their districts. So either it's being read before a school board meeting convenes, it's being integrated into staff training, it's being it just incorporated into the schools in different settings. So to briefly describe what both of those terms mean, so we'll start with land acknowledgement. It's a formal statement that the school has incorporated that's intended to recognize whatever native tribe or people they've regarded as being so-called the original inhabitants of the land the school district staff and students occupy. And with labor acknowledgement, it's referring to exploited labor and slavery, which contributed to the economic development of that region, according to what these folks believe. So, when you first listen to it, well, it doesn't sound that bad. But really, what the intended objective, right, is really getting children to hate America, right? America's founding is July 4th, 1776. This is an established fact that we all know. We come together every July 4th to recognize that special day of the founding of our country. And so when these school boards incorporate these statements, it's watering down our right to our own country, right? It's making children feel guilty and even probably disdain for America, right? Which is disgusting. That's not a school's role. A school's role is to teach them academic fundamentals that will ensure that they are able to live, fulfilling professional lives once they graduate. And unfortunately, they've gone so far off course with implementing things like this in their curriculum.
Michele, what's the solution to a problem like this, in your opinion?
Parents standing up and said, this is unacceptable. I think this is something, and I say this as a parent myself, I didn't know that this was a thing until we started looking into it at Parents Defending Education. And so right now we're just really creating that communication so parents are aware, right? We're making sure that folks across the country, other parents, advocates know to look out for this, right? And pay attention. So look through the correspondence with your school districts, right? Check out the school board meetings, look at your school's website and see if this is being implemented, incorporated. And if it is, voice your concerns, right? Raise your hand, say something, because chances are some folks aren't looking for something like this. And it might seem benign, but it's not. I mean, it's really flawed. And it's corrupt, and it's just not something that belongs in schools, especially when you consider that young Americans, right, we're seeing that this younger generation is not patriotic, right, and that's a concern. And I think that all of this activist propaganda that's being pushed in classrooms, I absolutely think that's playing a role.
Do you think that this stuff is going to pay off for those on the left that are pushing this type of information to students that are recently eligible to vote, or do you think that the work that you guys are doing at PDE is countering that effectively? And not just you guys, I mean, me on the radio, just everybody that's trying to make the truth known. How do you think it pans out next Tuesday?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think sanity will prevail, right? I think that parents over the past several years, right? I think COVID was an odd time, right? For multiple reasons. We had the school closures, awful pandemic policies, right? And now we saw how wrong they were. And I think what happened was, what I call the great parent awakening, right? Happened in 2020. A lot of parents, myself included, were Fairfax County. So we saw our school system just completely abandon their responsibilities and abandon children's learning. And so I think there was, by awakening, I mean, parents started paying attention, right? They started paying attention to what children were learning, what they were bringing home, what sort of other lessons were being incorporated in schools. And so I think none of it has, I think what's gotten better is that parents are paying attention, right? I think, again, sanity is really what parents want, right? They want neutral learning environments for their children. They don't want politics on either side to be taking place of the math and reading and science that should be consumed in schools. And so I think that parents have absolutely paid attention to that. And so we'll see what happens.
Now, for anybody who wants to learn more about what you're doing, op-eds you're writing, how do they follow you? How do they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Michele Exner. I believe it's Michele, 1L, P. Exner over on X. And then also our organization, you can find us on defendinged.org. We have what we call an indoctrination map. So anytime that we find things that shouldn't be happening in schools, we work to expose it and to empower parents with that information. And so we have a map there that basically lists everything out that we find. And how we find things, it's either tips from parents, directly from parents, and also public records requests that we push. We push hundreds a year just to make sure that the parents have transparency that they deserve to have when it comes to their children's education.
Outstanding. Michele Exner, I want to thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks, Rich.
You bet.